Good afternoon, Detroit. How are you feeling today? Is this a beautiful day for the Jazz Festival or what? My name is Jim Gallert, and I'd like to welcome each and every one of you to the 22nd Annual Ford Detroit International Jazz Festival. There have been 22 consecutive jazz festivals held on this site. This is the largest free jazz festival in North America, right here in Detroit, Michigan.
All right.
And we'd like to thank you for coming out to enjoy this great music with us. When we say this is a free music festival, I mean that it's actually free to all of us to come out and enjoy this great music. But in fact, it costs a lot of money to put a festival like this on. For one thing, the musicians have to be paid. That's a good idea, don't you think? You know, the musicians like that idea. What I'd like to do is read a short list of sponsors who come up with some hard cash to pay the musicians and make the whole thing possible. Maybe when I'm done, we can give them a little round of applause to show our appreciation for their efforts and their money. I'd like to thank Absol Pure Water, Ford Motor Company, Kowalski Company, and Absolute Vodka. Let's give them a round of applause. You know, how do young musicians today learn how to play jazz? Now, if this were 50 years ago, young musicians would learn either through a private teacher or they would go to nightclubs and watch professional musicians play and learn from them. But once jazz was absorbed into the public educational system in the 1950s, it became possible for young musicians to develop some of their improvisatory skills in middle and high school jazz lab bands. And we're privileged to have with us this afternoon one of the best bands that's been here 4 times. This is our 4th appearance at this festival. Anchor Bay. Does anyone know where Anchor Bay is? I thought so. There's a bunch of plants in the crowd. Would you please put your hands together and welcome the Anchor Bay Jazz Band.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We are the Anchor Bay High School Jazz Ensemble, or we are in New Baltimore, Michigan, which is just north of Mount Clemens, about 5 miles or so, not too far away, in Macomb County. Again, this is our 4th year playing down here. It's a pleasure every time. We're excited. Hopefully you will enjoy our show. That first one was Pick Up the Pieces by the Average White Band, a little arrangement we like to do every once in a while. This next one, we're going to feature our saxophone section in a Lenny Nahas number called Sax Shooter.
All right.
Thank you, Sax Shooter.
Sounds good.
Our next tune is going to feature our lead tenor player, and his name's Phil Johnson. He's going to come up, and we're going to do a little Latin number by Victor Lopez called Deco Drive.
Billy Phil!
Our next number is from the Duke Ellington Library. It's entitled Nietzsche's Dance. And for those who don't know, there's a program called Essentially Ellington, and where you can sign up and they'll send you out 8 free Duke Ellington charts. And not free anymore, you gotta actually pay $50 in the next coming years. They're gonna start charging money, but $50 for 8 Duke Ellington arrangements is pretty darn good. So we took them up on that offer in the last couple years, and we've been trying to learn a couple of the Duke Ellington tunes. This one's, again, Nietzsche's Dance. It's gonna feature on the alto saxophone, Nicole Batichewski, on tenor, Phil Johnson, and on clarinet, Jacob Cordy. Jacob Cordy, clarinet. Nicole Batichewski on alto. And Phil Johnson on tenor. Nietzsche's Dance. We're going to bring up our vocalist with the group this year, and her name's Shannon Callahan.
All right.
I'll come and give her a round of applause. She's going to sing something out of the Natalie Cole library called Orange Colored Sky. All the way from New Baltimore, Shannon Mellon. I'm going to take a minute here and recognize these wonderful, hardworking students. They deserve to be recognized individually here. We're going to start with the saxophone section. And on the baritone saxophone is Sarah Kern. On tenor, Jacob Corey, also plays the clarinet. On lead alto, Nicole Batichewski. Second alto, Julie Zebro. And lead tenor, Phil Johnson. Right off the stairs. In the trombone section here, we have on the bass trombone, Andrew Kowalski. On lead trombone, John Donnellan. Steve Shapperton. Derek Prop. And Nikki Melton. Back in our trumpet section, also playing some of the toys on Deco Drive, was Dave Campbell. Rob Hussein. And lead trumpet is Tommy Braun. Holding on second trumpet, Chris Lenaway. And coming back to help out the band, because we had someone that was unable to make it. There's a former student of ours here at Anchor Bay who also plays in CMU's Jazz Lab 1. They played last night. Hopefully you caught him. Maureen McPherson. And that's, with all these kids, these are graduated seniors, so some of them haven't picked up their horn all summer. And they come back to play. We've had a couple crash course rehearsals and tried to put the band back together. Hopefully it sounds all right. In the rhythm section, on guitar, we have Jordan Ferraro. On bass, we have two bass players, Lauren Anderson. Behind Lauren is Amy Karpinski. On the vibes is Joe Kotermansky. Our piano player is Chris Shimmers. And hopefully, last but not least, our two percussionists. Behind the congas is Lane Marsden. And behind the set is Paul Brodzik. Paul has the dubious task of marching the heaviest bass drum in Michigan State this fall. The seventh, the biggest one, poor guy. But he survived band camp and he's here. We're going to play a Thelonious Monk chart now, titled Well You Need Him. It's going to feature on lead trombone, John Donnellan, and it will also feature on tenor, right behind me, Phil Johnson, as well as a little solely by our saxophone section. Well You Need Him by Monk. On tenor, that was Phil Johnson. Free trombone, John Donnelly. Also playing a couple little drum solos in there, it was Paul Brodzik. This next one's going to feature a number of people in the band. It's another Ellington transcription. This one's called Pyramid, and it's going to, again, feature John Donnelly on trombone, Sarah Kern on baritone sax, Phil Johnson on tenor. Let's see if I can get all this right. Chris Linaway on trumpet, and Jacob Cordy on clarinet. He was staring at me like, don't forget me, don't forget me. This one's Pyramid. Well, I want to thank all those that came out, especially to hear us play. Hopefully you enjoyed the rest of the festival as well. A lot of great things going on down here. Definitely want to thank all the people from New Baltimore. And elsewhere. I see some staff members out there. It's great. And I want to thank Mr. Kleckner, who's our middle school feeder. He feeds me with all these great kids. And the parents, the support, it's been great. Thank you very much. We're going to play one more for you. It's called Peter Gunn by Henry Mancini. New Baltimore, Michigan. Thank you. Thank you very much.